with a Forbidden Door debut announced for AEW and plans still in place for Reigns versus McIntyre. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report for February 5th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official, and also follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Up-and-coming AEW star Hook has been looking great in his recent outings as he talked to Mashable to explain how CM Punk made him into an internet sensation. I didn't know that Punk was going to call me out. I was taken by surprise. It was crazy. It was wild. The external pressure was outrageous. I felt if I can make the most out of each opportunity that I had out there, that I could turn it into something that wasn't just a joke. It's weird being the subject of something like that, because this is serious to me. This is my career, but at the same time, that internet is what is such a driving force in today's world. While many fans have criticized WWE for constantly booking Charlotte Flair into main events and title matches, Paul Heyman said on After the Bell that she is just getting started in her career. I genuinely do not think that you have seen the best of Charlotte Flair. She is just getting started. I believe Charlotte Flair, in her heart, will not argue with this statement. There will come a day in this industry if Charlotte can capitalize on the opportunities that she creates for herself, where Ric Flair is known as Charlotte Flair's father, and not Charlotte Flair as Ric Flair's daughter. She is that good. When Charlotte faces Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch, Shayna Baszler, Natty, Ronda Rousey, whomever Charlotte steps in the ring with at WrestleMania, Charlotte will put on a show. Now Flair is set to defend the SmackDown Women's belt against Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania 38. Talking to Renee Paquette, Nia Jax recalled her time in WWE, comparing it to an abusive relationship. It's scary to say, but I feel really good, like happy. It's almost like Stockholm Syndrome. I was in this crazy, almost slightly abusive relationship with a company, but also good. There are good parts to it. But now it's done. I kind of get to be myself again, which I haven't been in a long time. So I feel good, but it's also just a scary party where you're like, okay, who is Lena now that she's not Nia Jax? With him continuing to wrestle in WWE alongside his son Dominic, Rey Mysterio talked on Wrestling about retiring from in-ring competition, saying, "I think I'll step back once I feel like my son is ready just to take off on his own." That would be really helpful for him. I'm hoping that it happens within this year, for him to branch out and take care of things on his own. I've had the opportunity to be on the same house shows as him, with me wrestling in a completely separate match and him wrestling by himself. Despite there being so many free agents coming out of WWE, AEW might not be able to sign them all, with Dave Meltzer touching on this topic on Wrestling Observer Radio, saying, "I know that the Keith Lee thing is, I don't know if it's a done deal, but it's certainly been talked about, which could mean Mia Yim. I don't think that she's a game changer, nor do I think they shouldn't hire her. It's just her. Athena, who I would hire. I would, for every reason. I wouldn't be surprised if they hired her at all. I would almost be surprised if they don't. And then Morrison's pretty good. Yay, Morrison's good. And there's others that again, they hired Tony Nese. I'm sure it's not at a big money price, but they still hired him. So, it's just a question if Tony thinks, and Tony Nese is a good wrestler, but to me, they have so many good wrestlers that hiring somebody because they're a good hand. I mean, look, they got Seidel and all of these guys that are very good in the ring that you can put in those positions and everything like that. They're filled with guys like that. If I was in the position he was in, I would only hire special people. I'd hire the Briscoes. I think they're special as a team, even though, my God, they've got so many tag teams that are good. Bandito, Dragon Lee, those guys I'd hire in a heartbeat, especially Bandito because he's young and, well, Dragon Lee's young and charismatic too, but Bandito, he's super charismatic. Staying on the topic of the free agent market, AEW President Tony Khan took to Twitter last night to make this statement. The Forbidden Door can be open for anyone from any wrestling promotion in the world, whether or not it's a company AEW is on good terms with. Even if it's someone from a company that's open for business, they're also welcome to slam the door in the face of their prior company. The big announcement for Wednesday's Dynamite that we referenced on AEW Rampage, a free agent debut, and the person walking through the Forbidden Door are one and the same. They're walking in the door, signing a contract, and then slamming the door shut Wednesday on Dynamite. With a great showing in tonight's Rampage TNT title bout, Isaiah Cassidy has earned a qualifying match for a spot in the Face of the Revolution ladder match with a TNT title shot at stake. His opponent will debut Wednesday plus sign a contract with AEW, Isaiah versus ? On Dynamite. This would lead to Forbidden Door trending on Twitter, as many are curious as to who will be making their debut. When asked to predict who was debuting, one fan wrote, "Since the emphasis is on the Forbidden Door, I assume it would be someone from New Japan or Impact. I put my money on Will Ospreay. Guys, I have a gut feeling that the AEW debut is going to be Jeff Hardy. You saw it here first." What does Jeff Hardy have to do with the Forbidden Door? You're wrong. You saw it here first. Alright, if that's the case, it must be Juice Robinson. Keith Lee wouldn't count as the guy walking through Forbidden Door, right? Still a weird phrasing for a free agent and a person walking through the Forbidden Door to be the same guy. To walk through the Forbidden Door, it means that the wrestler is currently still signed with another company. I've got to think it's Keith Lee. What do you guys think? I think it's either Keith or Kross, but since he said Forbidden Door, it may be Jeff Hardy. I'd love it to be Ali, but that won't happen. Jeff Hardy and Samoa Joe were trending, with fans thinking they could be making the jump to AEW as well. Last night, Matt Hardy would post a video following Rampage, with him looking to tease a Hardy Boys reunion. Here's the clip.
Tonight has not been a good night. Tonight on Rampage, Isaiah Cassidy lost to Sammy Guevara. Can't even put into words how furious I am, how upset I am, because this makes 2 weeks back to back that Private Party, who are supposed to be my prized pupils, my understudies, my stars. This makes 2 weeks that they have disappointed me. I busted my ass to get them a match for the World Tag Team Championships. They lost. I worked very hard to get Isaiah Cassidy this opportunity at the TNT Championship. He lost. I gotta be honest, I am not very happy with the way the AHFO has started. Something has to change. And maybe it's time for me to not focus on getting rich off these young guys that I'm mentoring. Maybe it's time for me to go back to the drawing board. Maybe it's time for me to get rich off what I originally got rich off of, and that was me. Maybe it's time for me to tighten up my boots, lace them a little tighter, lace them a little more snug. Maybe it's time to adapt my old motto of fear is only a 4-letter word. So starting today, February the 5th, 2022, I'm going to make a promise to everyone, and I'm saying it here publicly, so I'll be held accountable for it. I'm going to bust my ass. I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to take my dilapidated vessel, after all the wear and tear on my body, after my age, and get into the best shape that it can possibly be in. Because I don't like the direction that Matt Hardy is currently headed in AEW. And if something doesn't happen with the AHFO, something has to change. And maybe it's time for Matt Hardy to make an extreme change.
WCW legend Goldberg reportedly has one more match left on his WWE contract as he confronted Roman Reigns on SmackDown last night. It seems the two will be facing off in Saudi Arabia for the Elimination Chamber event, but fans are not pleased with this. Here's some of the reactions. Enough of this. It's old news. Get new ideas, build new stars. This Goldberg stuff is old. One match on his contract, so you won't give him the belt. Hire some actual creative writers. I'm a fan of Goldberg's, but come on WWE, push your younger talent that's on the main roster. Y'all had the talent, but let them go due to budget, which we fans know is BS. Get this old man out of here. When WWE doesn't want to use any of their new wrestlers, they send in Goldberg. Why? It amazes me how this man can walk onto a show and tell a champion you're next. How does this make any sense? This just sucks. Roman Reigns might have his hands full with Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, but there are still apparently plans for him to face Drew McIntyre. Dave Meltzer talked about this in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with him noting that McIntyre is very much in the plans for an opponent for Reigns at some point. Before his injury, there was talk of Reigns versus McIntyre, as Reigns' program in the early part of the year is getting to Lesnar. And now that he's back, perhaps that's in Saudi Arabia, although it would be better served for later in the year. The original plan for the Rumble was for Lesnar to destroy everyone, except give something to McIntyre before beating him. Lesnar was going to do what he wanted, but Lesnar put McIntyre over huge in 2020 in both angles, and at Mania, and did not have an issue with it. They did a face-off basically to call attention to their 2020 program, but had little time because the show had to be off the air at the 4-hour mark because of pay-per-view, which still exists, and some international commitments, so they were very low on time. With some fans thinking he could be set to make his AEW debut this week, Karrion Kross talked about his time in WWE after a match for Future Stars of Wrestling last night, as he said, 8 years ago and got in front of many of you. And to see you guys here tonight, I just wanted to say that this has definitely been the roughest last 2 years in human history in a very long time. I'm glad to see that you guys are sticking together in support of professional wrestling. If you guys have known me for many years, you know I'm not into this pandering shit. I'm speaking to you from the heart. Thank you so much for staying with me through the course of this company. It's people like you who elevated me to be where I was. All of us here created something for me and for you years ago, and got weird in the last 4 months on TV. Real weird. However, I will say this, the thing that we created here together through these shows, we all got to see that on NXT, which in my opinion is pretty awesome. I will be back, and I can't wait to see you guys on the next show. I will. If you're going to take away anything I say tonight, remember this: the glass, no matter what, is always half full. Thank you guys. When it comes to the controversy following Shane McMahon's release for his booking during the Royal Rumble, more news has come out from Fightful that Shane was looking to be the 29th entrant in the match, and Randy Orton, who was in his hometown for the event, would be number 28. The numbers would get reversed later, but Shane also reportedly threw out the idea of him entering that match first. As Fightful, who said, several sources have indicated that Shane McMahon specifically wanted to go in a spot that would highlight him, with one even mentioning that he pitched the number 1 spot. However, we're told that Vince McMahon personally came along and said that he'd be making changes to the match and wouldn't be doing much of what Shane laid out. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.